Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Topic Time. This is a new show with miscellaneous topics. Fluffy mostly, somewhat newsworthy. It's a call-in two-way live show. We're on at the dinner hour. Feel free to call in and discuss whatever you want. Try to make it not too heavy. If you want hard news, turn on Fox right now. You'll see that. We want to entertain you. If you want to talk about something that's, pressing on your mind, that might be hard news, we can live with that. But I'm trying to be flexible. I'm new here. My name is Harrison Young. You can read the graphics. The phone number is right up there on the screen. So I'm basically here for an hour to talk about pretty much whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's entertaining. So here it is, mid-August now. Pretty soon, kids are going to be going back to school. The foliage is going to be taking hold in this area. It's going to be beautiful. I already noticed today a few trees' leaves were turning kind of orangey in this neighborhood, and I'm looking forward to that. Then, of course, we have the election season coming up, the gubernatorial, the congressional, and whatnot. As I was heading down here today, I noticed a few Joe Malone signs up. Yeah, I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for yet. I'll think about it. Right now, I want to share something I heard yesterday. I heard that the state of Connecticut, with its two gambling casinos, of which I'm sure you're aware, Foxwoods and the Mohegan Sun, rake in about $85 million a year for that state. The Nutmeg State, the Constitution State, take your pick, call it what you will. And here we are in Massachusetts facing somewhat of a bond deficit, so I'm told. Again, I'm no economics major, economist. I'm not even a political expert by any means, but I read the paper. I try to pick up little tidbits of what I'm supposed to learn about this stuff. And I know that they seem to be voting down the casinos, and after they outlawed dog racing in the state, taking away thousands of jobs around the Commonwealth, I think the idea of not having a casino in the state with all the things it could provide, I'd like to say one thing to the Puritans, and this is simply my opinion. Have you lost your mind? I mean, come on. Revenue, baby. $85 million in two gambling casinos in Connecticut. And here we had a tax-free holiday the other day. From what I understand, the merchants made out like bandits, but the state lost about $17 million. So, feel free to call in and weigh in on that if you want. I may need some explaining because I'm not quite as familiar with how the money goes through the COFA system of the state. I know how merchants make out if they can charge less, and people flock like sheep to their front doors, to their stores, and they practically stampede each other to make the purchases. That I do know. I know that's very common during the holidays, especially. So that's one thing we can talk about. Another thing is, I did mention I realize school's going to be coming up pretty soon, for K through C, in other words, kindergarten through college. And I'd like to hear from kids, all ages, parents too, talk about what they think of that. Speaking for myself, I did not enjoy school too much. My GPA wasn't that good. In fact, when I did end up going to college 8 years after I graduated high school, and what I found out from checking my transcript was that my academic standing, out of 1,233 students at my high school, which was Brockton High School, 33 years ago I graduated in 1977, I was 1187 from the bottom academically, and it didn't bother me at all, but nevertheless, it is kind of interesting to note I still made it through college. Did my 4 years, got my papers. I'm always proud to say that I did it. I did it in a consistent timeline from the mid-1980s to the late 1980s, just as I did my 12 years at high school my 12 years of public school from the mid-60s to the mid to late 70s. So, of course, things were different then. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have cyberbullying. We didn't have things that we didn't have cell phones. But I think things were pretty much the same. We didn't have too many backpacks. I'd like to know, just anyone out there watching cares about going back to school, has any opinions on it. And I actually applied as a substitute teacher myself in Brockton. I took a couple of interviews. And I was kind of hoping they'd call me. I thought it would be interesting just to see what it would be like to substitute teach for a while. So unfortunately, they didn't call me. What I'd like to know is, looking at me now, if you're a kid and you saw me in a classroom instead of your regular teacher, how would you treat me? Would you be respectful? Would you throw spitballs, paper airplanes, what? You know, I'd like to know that. You know, just be kind of interesting. It's a beautiful day today. It's Wednesday, August 18th. I brought in my Brockton Enterprise because ultimately I'm going to cover some news topics that I see ad hoc. So again, not too heavy. I happen to notice that, I'm going to cover sports maybe a little bit, not too much, because one of the people who has a sports show in an hour or 2 hours from now, I'm not going to rain on his parade. But I did notice something kind of silly. I want you to take note here. I don't know if you can see it, but Tom Brady, the New England Patriots quarterback, has kind of a young person's look. Parents should tell him he needs a haircut kind of hairstyle today. I think it's kind of humorous to take note of. It's right here in the paper. You should be able to see it. I'll bring it right up to the camera in case you haven't seen it yet. And, of course, I'm looking forward to the Patriots season, naturally. But I just thought that would be interesting to weigh in on. Anyway, call in. I want to know, first of all, does anyone have any feelings about the Blagojevich trial? I mean, he swayed one out of the 12 jurors, some woman, out of the 24 charges he was accused of. He was only found guilty on one, and something tells me that maybe there was a little bit of maybe the woman found him kind of attractive. Maybe she liked his hairdo. Who knows? And I'd like people to weigh in on that. I think that's kind of interesting. I think Rod Blagojevich is a character. I mean, I know he broke the law. I guess wasn't on the jury. I assume he broke the law. I'm not here to judge him, but look what he did. He did something outrageous, and now I believe he has his own reality talk show or TV show. And that's another thing we can talk about, how people get reality TV shows. They do outrageous things, and they end up getting their own shows. And I'm kind of wondering, maybe that's not a bad idea for me. Maybe I should do something kind of outrageous, not too outrageous. Right now, this is what I'm starting with. This is hopefully will be my niche for the next few weeks. But again, that's up to you to decide if you want to call and patronize my show. And yeah, if you want to be silly, that's fine too. I don't care. It's just two-way conversation. I got an hour to fill up here till 6 o'clock. I may be able to fill it without you, if I have to. If not, I'll just talk to the people at the station and ask them to cut me early. But I'm going to try to stick it out. I really want this to be something interesting and entertaining. Okay, let's see here. What have we got to talk about in the news? Oh, dropped the card on the floor. It's not mine. Got to keep the studio clean. After all, I'm only renting it. I'm not renting to own. So, let's see. What are you all thinking here in Marshfield? I understand the new seawall has come up, is going to be built, and it's pretty much unanimous in the town that you guys want a seawall, a new one. And it's kind of impressive that the old one has lasted as long as it has, 80 years, roughly, give or take. So when you think about it, you're creating a new artifact in the town that's going to probably, become a part of history, just like this one has. And you realize that your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are all going to be using the seawall for whatever purpose it has. And I'm kind of wondering, too, what exact purpose does it have? Does it keep water from the properties on the along the waterfront? Is it just for scenery? Is it for scenery as well? Please enlighten me. Give me a call. Let me know what is the purpose of the seawall. Is it? Personally speaking for myself, if I had the seawall in my backyard, I'd write graffiti on it. I'd invite people to draw artwork on it, because after all, in a way, a seawall, something that lasts that long, could be like a time capsule. People could come out and draw things. They could, I'd want it to be not too offensive. I wouldn't want gang members of rival drug dealing gangs or gang banging groups of people, which I don't think Marshfield has, as far as I know, to be scrolling graffiti on it, because that could lead to antagonism between the gangs, and I don't believe they have that in Marshfield, as far as I know. And it's nice because it's the fact that this is a nice, clean cut community, which doesn't have that kind of stuff. And I live in Brockton, and Brockton isn't quite as fortunate. I feel where I live it's pretty good, but And lately I haven't really been hearing much about bad things happening in Brockton of that nature. So enlighten me about the seawall. Tell me about. I'm actually also before I continue talking about the seawall. I also happen to be the WATD poet every Thursday morning. If you listen between 8:25 and 8:30, you'll hear me do a poem about something newsworthy. Kind of like what I'm talking about now. It only goes for about a minute. It's 12 lines each time. I recorded on Tuesday. I used to go live in the midday, but I decided that it would be better to go record it in the early morning. That way I could hear myself and be objective. That's number one. Number two, the way they can edit it at the radio station is pretty good because if I botch a line or two, all I have to do is ask Rob Hackle, who's the news director, very good guy, very easy to work with, to edit out the mistakes. And you won't even notice them. I can just go over, redo that line that I missed up. Comes out as good as I want it to sound without me having to do the whole poem over. So, I don't know if I imagine there are plenty of ATD listeners out there. Right now, Ed Perry, who's the owner of the station, chief cook and bottle washer, he's a real nice guy. He has me on every week. He's had me on for a couple of years now. But he's doing a summertime hiatus on Martha's Vineyard. And I think when he comes back from the vineyard, if the show goes according to plan, I may ask him to come on as a guest, which would be nice because then I might get a few calls if people see Ed Perry and see what he looks like. He's the voice behind one of the several of the features that go on, especially one that he calls the good, the bad, and the really, really stupid, which usually goes on through the week, where he basically gives his 2 cents opinion on things that he feels are important enough to weigh in on. And right now he's on the vineyard, and I believe he's going to be joined pretty soon by the Obama family. President Obama and his kin tomorrow are going to be taking yet another vacation on, I believe, taxpayer dollars. And that's something else maybe you'd like to weigh in on. A lot of people are blaming President Obama for the current economic situation. Speaking for myself, based on what I've seen, again, I'm no economist, economy major. I was a communications major at school when I went to college. But a couple of years ago, some of the stores that I shopped at looked quite barren of people. That's not the case now. And don't forget, a couple of years ago, Obama was merely the president-elect. He wasn't the president. In fact, he didn't become the president-elect until November of '08. And I noticed as early as late September that it looked like pretty desolate in some of the stores that I was shopping at, based on the economy as it was then. And I realize now, a lot of people, I understand that only 41% of the population that was surveyed feel that he's doing a sufficient job to keeping the economy improving. Speak for myself, I don't know. I know a lot of people, a lot of the big wigs lost a lot of money during the crisis a couple of years ago, including T. Boone Pickens, probably the most famous, the oil tycoon miser. I don't know if he's a miser. I think he lost a couple of $1 billion, which I guess he could afford to lose. But let's face it, when people that kind of money can lose, can still lose a big chunk like that, then there's something wrong. And I can only follow what I read in the news. If they say that the economy is as bad as it was during the Great Depression, or pretty close, then I have to be expecting to see people in bread lines out on the street. And it didn't look quite that bad. But obviously at that point I started looking at the stock market a little closer. And by the way, I know the stock market for today just closed about a half hour ago. If anyone knows how it did, please call and enlighten me. I know it was down a few days ago. And I guess the world economy is being affected by some of the news. Perhaps the flooding in Pakistan. I don't know. That kind of thing. Bad news seems to affect the stock market negatively. Maybe what else? What else is going on? Obviously, maybe the possible building of a mosque at Ground Zero, which upsets a few people. Anything that upsets people seems to bring the stock market down. At least the bear element. I think that's how it goes. The bears are the stocks. The bonds are the bulls. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong. No economist. I'm just living my life here, trying to make the best of things. Let's see. Here's something. Obviously, the property values are still crashed because of foreclosures. and the average single-family home falls $42,000 in Brockton, almost $42,500. And fortunately, my home is all paid for. I don't have to worry about a foreclosure. But of course, there are people that don't have it as good as I do. I admit I'm among the upper echelon, economically speaking. So please call in and weigh in on that if you'd like to. Let's see what else. What else we got here to talk about? This is, by the way, today's paper, August 18th, 2010. Okay, bountiful cranberry crop predicted, which is good. I mean, people love cranberry juice. There's nothing wrong economically with the cranberry production, I guess. Neither for Ocean Spray. I'm sure people at Ocean Spray are very happy right now with the money they're making, and I always enjoyed the taste of Ocean. I mean, I shouldn't be promoting this stuff because it's not. This is public access television. All I'm saying is it's a local company. It's pretty much the be-all, end-all when it comes to the cranberry industry, not only here but nationwide. This area, is probably the most prolific cranberry growing area around in the whole country. You drive up along Route 44 and you see, millions of cranberries in bogs, and I think they're kind of pretty to look at, not to mention tasty to drink and eat. I try not to eat too many cranberries or drink too much sweetened cranberry juice because I am actually into health and fitness. I try to keep my figure as stout as you can see it here. And if that stout is the right word, I mean lean. I think that's what it means. But anyone involved in the cranberry industry, I mean, you're in the area, Marshfield. I think Marshfield has a few cranberry bogs as well. Please feel free to call in and weigh in on how that's going. All right, let's see what else is there to talk about. And by the way, I wasn't going to talk too much about sports, but I wouldn't like to, express my opinion about the Shaq deal, the Celtics getting Shaq. Number one, I wish they had kind of waited until, the season was about to start rather than right at the end of the very disappointing Celtic 7-game loss to the Lakers. Because, quite frankly, I think we need time to grieve. Okay, I don't mean grieve, but I mean just reap the disappointment and move on. And as far as how he does, I think he's going to draw a lot of fans. As far as how he does on the court, that still remains to be seen. He's certainly not as young as he used to be. And I'm only bringing that up because that was a big news story a couple of weeks ago. Okay, let's see. Yesterday speaking of politics, there was a fire out in the town of Westford. I know that's really not in our area, but what makes it interesting is that it was a political headquarters for a gentleman who was running, I believe, for a congressional seat. And nobody was hurt, so it's not really hard news, and yet it is suspicious. In the town of Westford, if you know it, it's a very quaint, quiet little town, kind of like this area here. So, I'm kind of wondering what could have set that fire off. There was, I believe, somebody said there was a vehicle that was burning nearby. Oftentimes, when that happens, there's a good chance it is arson. Just like with that potential New York City thing a few weeks ago, whenever that was, I'm not exactly sure. So how's dinner going for everybody now? I mean, this is a good time. Basically, it's a G-rated show. Like I said, I'm new. Try to bear with me. I'm starting out. If this were a late night, I might be more inclined to talk about things that were a little harder to take, a little more heavy set, heavy duty. Or I just go home and watch the news, which is what I, would be doing at like maybe 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Watch those TV shows that are on that are a little bit more intense than what we're talking about here. Feel free to call in. My number's on the screen. I don't really even know it yet. That's the beauty of having the graphics up for the whole show. I mean, you can see the graphics better than I can because I'm looking at the camera right now. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Well, again, school's starting pretty soon. I'd like to know, how people are weighing in on that. I like thinking about school, about have you gotten your new clothes yet? If you're, kids, if your parents, oh yeah, that's something else. I understand that the test for college, I think it's called the ACT tests, like 24% of the people that are taking it are passing it, and apparently that's kind of a low number. And I'd like to know what people think of the MCAS test. I don't think we even had something like that when I was in high school. I know how important it is. I know that you basically have to have a pretty good aptitude for logic, I guess, if you're gonna enter college or if you're gonna just get to high school. But since I never took that kind of test, I did take something though in October of my sophomore year at Brockton High School, which was called sophomore testing. And those tests weren't just what they were basically an excuse for the rest of the the other classes to get a few days off from school. As I recall, when we weren't sophomores, we enjoyed that because we had a few days off during sophomore testing. We got to miss classes, but we also had to take these tests. But as far as the importance compared to the MCAS tests, I don't think they really were. At least, there didn't seem to be any heavy mental pressure on us to pass these tests. It was just basically common sense. Number 2 pencils, fill out, four squares, fill out which square you thought was the right answer. And don't worry about it. Move on. It was probably the least pressure test I ever took. Now, when I was in college, just to say, one of the reasons my GPA wasn't so good was I always had trouble memorizing material for tests. I never did well with that. And I actually just barely passed school through the skin of my teeth. I did flunk a lot of school. I had to do summer school, and quite frankly, I felt that realistically they were trying to get us through. We were the baby boomers. We were 1,200 kids in my class at Brockton High School in the class of 1977. That's a lot. I believe that's a lot more students than there are today on an average public school docket, because back then parents were having on average between 2 and 5 kids between the years 1946 and 65. Apparently, just in case they had, I'm guessing, just my theory is that if after World War II ended, the atomic bomb was, and I know I shouldn't be getting too heavy, but nobody's calling in, so I figured I might as well just weigh in on stuff myself. People probably figured if we were going to have another world war, at least that we needed more people that would be available to defend our country. As during World War II, I think there were a lot more people willing to join up. Although today there are too willing to join the military, just to defend the country. And then, of course, when the first H-bomb was exploded and the Cold War began, I think people were fearing, that was going to bloom to full-fledged, nuclear war. And I know that during the 50s, which was, just before I got into school, I was born in the late 50s, 1959. I was just hearing about it today. I was thinking about how the propaganda films about duck and cover if the bomb drops were freaking out a lot of kids. And I know that if I had lived through that, I definitely would have been pretty freaked out about it. In the 60s, what we had was every Friday, they tested the air raid signal at promptly noontime, and all I thought that was a fire engine going off, because that's all is what it sounded like. And every Friday afternoon at high noon, you'd hear, you hear the sound of the air raid signal, and nobody really paid it much mind, because all we knew was that they didn't really bombard us in the 60s with as much fear mongering as they did in the 50s. And then, of course, it wasn't actually until, I'd say, maybe even 9/11, between the years, between the early 70s when the Vietnam War ended and when 9/11 happened, that we really didn't have much to fear in terms of at least military retaliation from any country. But now, of course, in the post-9/11 era, we have that going on. And now, as well as we have to figure anytime somebody causes a commotion on an airplane, like with Mr. Stephen Slater did, as he did last week, we have to wonder about whether that's something to take seriously. JetBlue, since then, I heard that they had they had a little more. Some woman made some kind of a commotion on a flight landing at Logan, and I kind of wonder, maybe JetBlue was jinxed. If you believe in jinxes, you had Stephen Slater pulling that stunt with the profanity-laced tirade with that passenger, and then with the rest of the patrons, after 20 years of being a pretty straightforward and straight-laced flight attendant, without any stuff like that going on. I have to admit, I'd been kind of freaked out if I was on that plane, but it is kind of interesting how several of the passengers interviewed thought it was kind of funny how he acted. I guess they weren't really afraid that he was going to do anything really crazy. And so please feel free to weigh in on that. I guess, again, I'm kind of looking for the possibility that Mr. Slater eventually will have his own TV reality series, perhaps for what he did, after he pays his fines and settles up any lawsuits that might be incurred from the airlines for maybe breaking a contract, which it sounds like he might have done. I don't know how the contracts work in the airlines, but I guess for somebody that's been working there for 20 years, there's got to be some kind of. I believe he was a 20-year-long employee. And I guess if somebody's going to snap, there are a lot worse ways to do it than just sliding out an emergency exit and stealing a couple of beers. And he went out with pizzazz. Let's face it, he really did. I don't know. I haven't flown myself in 12 years. We took a trip to China in 1998. Maybe I could talk a little about that. The Chinese people are a great group of people. I found they were very friendly to me when I went there, probably even more so than people here in the States. Maybe one of the reasons was they couldn't understand me. But I had a situation where I was in the city of Nanjing. Now, for those of you who know your history, and believe me, your American history wouldn't probably reveal this, but if you went to China and took a tour like I did of 8 different cities, your tour guide would give you a pretty good a synopsis of of the history of every city and how their lives related. And Nanjing, again, I'm going to get a little heavy here because people aren't calling in and talking about current events, so I'm going to have to refer to what I heard when I was there. The statistics were as follows: when the Japanese were trying to help Hitler conquer the world in their own way, they totally run roughshod over Nanjing. And when the final toll was taken, it was like 6,000 men murdered, 3,000 women raped. And fast forward, this was 1937 when this went on, prior to Hitler invading Poland on September 1st, 1939, sparking World War II. But fast forward 61 years to 1998, and Nanjing was a much-changed city, a very art-riddled, that's not the right word, art-endowed city with a lot of good museums and people, a lot of good restaurants, friendly people. I was actually very lucky. We arrived and we took planes, trains, boats, and buses to get to our destinations, and we left at all hours of the day and night. And we actually arrived in Nanjing on the morning of, I believe it was August 3rd of 1998. It was a Monday morning. Please bear with me with my memory. I have photographic memory for dates, and I will be. When I refer to dates that occurred in my life, I will be using, days of the week that they occurred on. And it was a Monday, and we got there at 2 a.m., and I am an avid health fanatic, like I may have mentioned. I go jogging every day. At that time, I was probably overdoing it. I would take 10-mile runs 3 days a week. So 10 o'clock that morning, we arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning. I took 2 or 3 hours snooze, and I had plenty of energy. There really wasn't much jet lag. It's a 12-hour time difference. So here, the time I'm used to, my biological clock was used to it being late afternoon instead of early morning. So what I did was I took a 10-mile jog. But what I failed to realize was that after I left my hotel, that it was in a very narrow alley, and I didn't see it after I left, and I figured I'd find it easy enough. I just decided to jog around the block at the pace I did. I didn't have a pedometer with me to determine how far I'd gone, but I pretty much knew how far I could cover in 2 hours based on the speed that I would jog at. And I just told myself, oh, excuse me, I think we have a call. First call. Hello, you're on the air with Harrison. Would you like to be on TV? Hello? Oh, I don't know. Hang on a second. This is a live talk show, but I'll find out. This is called Topic Time, and I'm the host, Harrison Young. If you want to be on the air and talk a little bit, you're certainly more than welcome to. Is this Joe? Good. I'm doing my own show tonight, just like you have your own. Well, all right. Since you're the sports guy, what do you say? We can talk about the Celtics getting Shaq. I brought that up, and I even. hang on. Let me patch it through. I'm new at this, so just let me patch it through, and you can talk about that, because that's good. That would be great. All right, hang on. Let me see if I can get this right. I got to hang up the phone, and I got to hit the hold button. Hang on, and I'll get you right through, and you can talk about it. Hang on a minute. All right, here we go. All right. Whoa. Something's wrong here. Hit the on button. Okay. Chris, little help? Joe, you still there? Oh, man.
Please hang up and try your call.
Unbelievable. I'm experiencing feedback. Oh, man. This is tough, I thought. Joe, call back. Well, Joe called in. He was going to get on the air, but I had a hard time. Okay, patch him. Yeah. All right. Pick it up. All right. All right. What do we click? Click hold? All right, yeah. I'll grab it over here. Tell him I'll patch him through, but... Yeah. Oh, hit the off button first.
Just wait.
Apologize to him for my screwing this up.
Is he going on or not?
Yeah, he's going on.
Keep talking while.
Okay. Yeah, I have someone that's about to get on the air with me. Again, I'm kind of new at this. Patching people through on the phone is not easy until you've done it a few times, and I have not. So I'm having a little bit of help, and we're going to have a guest in a few minutes, a phone guest. He's going to talk about something he wants to, weigh in on, and then we'll hear from him, and hopefully that will get the ball rolling for you other folks out there to call in. And as soon as the people helping me out here at the station are able to patch them through, we'll put them through.
You gonna take care of that, Chris?
Yeah.
All right.
So watch.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, you're going to go on in a second, okay? Hold on. All right, no watch.
Okay. No. Oh, okay. You hit the 2 button. All right.
Whatever one is blinking, and then you decide.
Yeah, the button wasn't blinking before. Okay. Then 16, right?
You're talking to Jim.
Okay, Joe. Can you
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Welcome.
Good.
Welcome to Topic Time.
Wow, it's great to see that you're on the air and doing coffee time. It's a great thing, and we're always glad down there at MC TV to have another show on the air. So we know you have a lot of experience in the media field there. So it's great to have you aboard.
Thank you. It's great to have you aboard. Talk about your you got something going on at the fair that I understand, the Marshfield Fair, and I should have mentioned the fair earlier, but eventually I probably would have gotten around to it. But go ahead, talk about it. Explain what you have going on.
Yeah, we got the Marshfield Fair coming up Monday, August 23rd. We're going to be doing a live show from 6:30 to 7:30. I can now announce. Actually, you're going to have, even before my show tonight, you're going to have exclusive, Harrison. How's that? Vinny Paz will be there, the former fighter.
I know, Vinny Paz. He cost my brother $5,000 20 years ago on a bet, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it's
a great thing. We look forward to having Vinny on. Mary Pratt will be there, former All-American women's in baseball with the Georgia Peach. You might remember the movie League of Their Own, which the movie was based on. The women in baseball.
Well, I remember. Is that the movie with Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And this is she actually, Mary was actually part of the consulting group that was helping out with the filming of that movie. Again, this was based on the real life story of the Georgia Peach and different players and stuff.
May I interject one moment? The Georgia Peach, as I know it as a baseball fan, was Ty Cobb, but obviously this is something different. Ty Cobb, he referred to himself as the Georgia Peach when he was in his youth as a boy.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble picking you up here.
You can't hear me?
It's probably my cell phone.
Okay. Well, call back if you want to.
We're also going to have on the voice of the Boston Cannons and Blazers as well is going to be there. The Lopes family, who's Alexandria is a woman boxer for CES Boxing for Jimmy Burchill, as well as Manny Lopes, who's well known, a local fighter and well-known fighter. In his own right, it will be there. So we got some other people that we're going to be announcing that will be there as well. So the UFO for MMA will also be there, and we're hoping to get UFC, they're doing their first show here in Boston since it was
Well, they did. There was a UFC fight in Brockton on August 14th, just a few days ago.
I'm sorry, what?
There was a UFC fight in Brockton just a few days ago on August 14th. Saturday, I believe.
The UFC is going to be there in Boston at the end of this month. It's a big thing for MMA, mixed martial arts. So that's going to be pretty exciting. We're hoping to have possibly somebody from that on as well. So yeah, we got a lot of people there. It's going to be a great time, and we're going to take Q&A answers from the audience.
It'll be a beautiful night too. Probably it's going to be, the fair. Marshfield's the best time of the year to have a fair.
Yeah, it should be great. Let me ask you this: I know you're a big baseball fan there, Harrison. What do you think of the Red Sox now? A lot of injuries.
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, I think that it's still 6 weeks to go in the season. Don't count them out yet. I am, this sports is one. And by the way, do you know that I won a championship in my baseball game that I told Bill Wilhelm about on his show.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
That was back on March 6th.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild.
Speaking of Billy, I should mention, too, before he gets upset with me, Billy will also be there from Sports Exchange, WATD Radio, the voice of the South Shore, at that event, too. So Billy's a good friend of both of ours, as you know, and a very kind man and a great person. Very
charismatic. You can't. There's no better guest to discuss sports with than Bill. And he's also a great announcer. I just found that out. During the football season, listening to some of the high school, games that he broadcasts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's got the knack for it. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to be doing tonight. Believe it or not, I have a meeting. After I leave here, I'm going to Braintree. I may have a chance to do some high school football refereeing for Pop Warner in high school, and mostly the young people. And I got a meeting tonight in Braintree at Braintree High School, and I'm going to find out about. It's going to be interesting. I got that going on, and I also might be doing. I think I'm taking a job where I'm going to be doing sports photography as well.
Oh, excellent!
I got a paid training thing coming up Saturday in Northborough. Now, let me ask you something. You're a sports fan. What great baseball star hailed from Northborough, Massachusetts?
I'm sorry. You know what? Unfortunately, and I'm not avoiding the question. You're breaking up on me. I'm sure it's my cell phone. Could you try again?
Yeah. Well, what great baseball star? And by the way, this is open. If you can't get this answer, anyone who wants to call in is welcome to. What great baseball star hailed from Northborough, Massachusetts? Did you hear that?
I'm not sure.
Mark the Bird Fidrich. Oh, I should have left it open for other people to answer it. Remember Mark the Bird Fidrich? He won 19 games for the Tigers back in '76, including a huge Monday night game on June 28th against the Yankees and a 2-1 win. Sometimes they show that game on Classic Sports.
Yeah, it was very sad.
I know he was killed in an accident. Yes, I know.
Of course, you mentioned Mark the Bird Fidrich, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was very sad that he recently passed away within the last year.
Yep.
At a young age, really. I mean, he wasn't that old. Obviously, his career was over, but he was a very asthmatic baseball player for sure. His I don't want to say antics. His style was very unusual and kind of caught baseball by surprise.
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, that's right. He only did. He may have been. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if he was a Hall of Famer because he only had one great season, and then he injured his shoulder or his arm, tendonitis or something in '77, and he couldn't do anything with it after that. But yeah, I mean, I'll watch that game anytime they show it. That's the beauty of sports, Joseph. You can't. I mean, without sports history, sports moments would not be worth preserving. I mean, if we couldn't remember some of the great events that have happened, even 100 years ago, then we need something to justify it, sports as we know it today, and that's what does it really is the history of it. That's why I could read the encyclopedias of all the sports and spend hours just studying them. So
absolutely.
Well, it's great to have your show going.
I gotta let you go. I want to thank you for having me on. Hopefully, we can do it again.
Yeah.
But as you know, I got a show tonight myself at 8 o'clock, 8:05. Hopefully, people will tune into that as well. But congratulations on your show, and
I wish more people would call in.
Good luck with it.
Thanks.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah, take care. Have a good one. Let's see. Okay, that was easy. I did it. Yeah, turning it off is much easier than turning it on. Okay, that was Joe O'Neill, host of the Sports Page, which is coming on later tonight after my show ends. I hope you tune in. He's always got some very interesting things to say and some very interesting guests. I guess you could say he's one of my colleagues here at Marshfield Cable. I'm glad he called in. And of course you heard his promotion of the Marshfield Fair, and the fair is coming up. I'm sure it's going to be. I've never actually attended the Marshfield Fair, but I've heard wonderful things about it. Maybe this year will be my first year. The Brockton Fair occurs in my neighborhood every year, and I haven't actually gone to that in about 13 years. 1997 was the last time I went. It was July 4th with my brother, and we met up with a friend of his. But I mean, I'm not much of a fair goer. I mean, the pageantry's nice, but the Marshfield Fair is a little different because you have things there that this is the kind of town we have. You have probably it's a little more laid back. It's not quite as crazy as Brockton's stuff is, and I can say that without impunity because Brockton isn't picking the show up right now unless I choose to get it on Brockton Cable, which I might. I mean, people know me in Brockton more than they do here in Marshfield. That is, unless of course you listen to WATD on Thursday mornings, and that would be as in just so you know, tomorrow morning at 8:25, you can tune in to 95.9 on your FM dial, and you'll hear my poetry. Okay, so let's see what else we can talk about. I was talking about my trip to China. Anyway, let me get back to that. This was just to show how friendly the people were there. When I was jogging around that block in Nanqing, I needed to get back to my hotel, but the fact was that it was in such a deep alley that I couldn't find it. And what I thought was actually my hotel turned out to be a government building. Now, you don't want to, when you're in a foreign country, especially a country where, now, I mean, the people are very nice there, but the government, they're suspect in human rights violations and whatnot, so you got to be careful. And I actually, thinking that was my hotel, I actually went to the front desk and basically not physically, but verbally tried to confront the people at the desk. Unbeknownst to me, that was a government building, and those were cops I was confronting. And they could have arrested me probably, and instead they asked these two young people to help me out. These two young people, probably, I'm guessing, in their late teens, who were enrolled in a summer school program in an art class in Nanqing. They actually went out of their way to help me find my hotel. What that meant was they took me around to a variety store. They checked, and they didn't speak much English either, by the way. They spoke just enough to understand my plight. But they called every single hotel in the city and asked if they had a Harrison Young registered there. Finally, after about 2 hours of this, they were able to help me find my hotel, and I passed it about 15 times without realizing it. So these are the kind of predicaments that I get into in my life. So go figure. These, if nothing else, if I can't get people to call in with news stuff, maybe this will be interesting fodder for discussion later on, or amongst yourselves, if not with me. So that's why I say these people were pretty friendly. The the Chinese, and we wanted to invite them to dinner. I finally found my way back to my group, and I went out with them sightseeing that day. I told these kids, I said, if you guys want to join us for dinner later on this evening, feel free. Well, they gave me their phone number, and unfortunately, when I called it, all I got was people speaking Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, so unfortunately, that was the end of it with these kids. But again, I reiterate, I would recommend a visit to China for anybody, and especially now. I mean, the one thing about China is that's at least and they may have cleaned it up. I mean, negatively speaking, it is sort of a polluted country. I mean, they don't. There is a lot of litter around strewn about the countryside. Again, I don't know. Maybe they've changed. Maybe that's changed. Some of the cities are less polluted than others. The air is very. It's a very industrialized country. There's a lot of smog in the air. But nevertheless, I mean, it's charming. You can, they say don't go swimming, don't drink the water unless it's filtered. Well, you can bathe in the water. I mean, I took showers in every hotel I stayed at. And I walked through the countryside, and the people, I actually got a chance to, another day, a few days after this, in Nanjing, I was in another city called Suzhou, which is which doesn't quite have quite a history of, during World War II, or prior to World War II, that Nanjing had. But I was taking a walk, and they love Americans in China, I think primarily because we spend money there, and it helps their economy. Because they're not a rich country, but they're a charming country. But what happened was I was taking a walk alongside. I tended to split up with my group. Well, they were having lunch. I'd eat quick and then take a walk, as I wanted to I wanted to kind of explore the countryside by myself, without having to have people tag along behind me. And I wound up being called over to this little establishment. I think it was more of a home than a business, but it was three or four young people offered me some beer and some food, and there were some pretty girls there. So to be quite frank with you, I kind of wish I could have stayed a little longer, but I had to meet my group. But they let me one of them let me take their bike out for a little ride around the countryside. And that's another thing. A challenging thing in China to do is to ride a bike, because you get 5,000 bikes all the time around China. That's pretty much the biggest mode of transportation. And the people driving don't really, you sort of have to be careful. It's not like in America where you have the right of way if you're on a bike or a pedestrian. In China, you got, whose population is like 4 times as large as the U.S. is. You get 1.3 billion people trying to get around, and you need to, kind of be careful when you're on a bike. But it's a challenge, and it was worth it. I was riding alongside of quite a few other people, and it was fun. But I'll say one thing about the Chinese: the bikes are much more simple. You don't get the 21-speed Univega mountain bikes that you get here. You get simple 1-speed bikes, but the construction is so easy to it'll handle on any road, up or down, no matter how difficult the road conditions are. You can drive over pavement, you can drive over slate, gravel, whatever, rocks in the road. The tires they handle very well, and I think, to be honest with you, I had more fun riding the Chinese-made bikes than I did riding my own bike, which cost a lot. I assume cost a lot more money. You can rent a bike in China for about $5 a day, as long as if you bring it back, and you don't really have to give them much to hold. It's pretty trustworthy. It's kind of like you have a nice face, have a nice day. Bring the bike back by 5 o'clock, and we'll call it a deal. If you're out longer, we'll pay a couple extra bucks. Another thing I noticed about China, which is really great, was the produce. I'm telling you, I've never had better taste in vegetables. I'm a vegetarian, by the way. I have been for 28 years, since July 30th of 1982. And as someone who was a vegetarian, I can definitely appreciate good produce. Now, the thing I learned about China was that they basically fertilize their own produce with their own product. They don't use animal fertilizer. But let's face it, you can say that's disgusting, but if you eat American food, which is fertilized with animal dung, you still have to wash it off either way, even though it's not, even if it's from an animal. But, I've never had riper tasting, let's see, what did I have there? Peas. I love peas. Most of the green leafy vegetables, broccoli, spinach, everything that they grow that was green, it looked twice as green as the stuff you get here. They say if it's grown in Massachusetts, it's fresh, but I tell you what, the Chinese food is the freshest. The noodles were the best too. I mean, the only thing I really, I didn't care for was to see how they. I mean, I am an animal. I do care about animals. They do, unfortunately, ride the pig carcasses around on. They get them at the butcher shop, freshly slaughtered, and I felt really bad. I wish I could turn the whole world into vegetarians. To be honest with you, it's a healthier lifestyle. I mean, I'm 51 years old. I feel pretty good. I'll never change my lifestyle. Not that way. I mean, I was a cheeseburger consumer for many years. Not anymore. I'll eat veggie burgers. I'll probably eat some tonight. I love veggie burgers. They're very healthy. They taste better. They plump up. And while I got you on, the TV here, try vegetarianism. I guarantee you. If you want anything you like that's meat, can be substituted for. Tastes a lot better. Much healthier. My cholesterol is 134. My triglycerides are 23. I just had a check last week. Never felt better. I think I could live another 45 to 50 years the way I feel now. Now, I noticed in the paper this past Saturday, and I'd love to get this woman on as a guest, speaking of longevity, there's a woman who's 97 years old in Whitman who made the cover of the paper because she was working out in the Brockton Enterprise. This is the paper I'm talking about. I mean, that's our biggest local paper, so I pretty much use it for for stuff that that's one of my sources of news, and obviously the other ones are the net, the web, online, Google, whatever, and of course TV. But this woman's 97 years old. Her bone structure is fantastic. You should see the forceps and biceps on this woman. She works out at Curves in Whitman, and if the show goes well, I may try to get her on as a guest. I'm sure people watching would want to talk to her. I mean, she must have a secret because I don't know anybody that old. And I'm not criticizing. I mean, I had a great aunt live to be 105, but she was no health nut. She was healthy. She didn't smoke. But she was, basically always complaining about feeling lousy. This woman, I doubt she feels anything but pretty good most of the time. She's already got Jack LaLanne beat by 2 years in her longevity. He's only 95, and the way she looks, I'd say she's probably going to be working out at the gym when she's in her hundreds as well. That's quite impressive. I did not throw that paper out. I still have it in my house. I'm going to try and touch base with her in the next couple of weeks to see if I can get her on the show as a guest. Okay, well, that's about. We talked about China. Let's see what else we can talk about. What other newsworthy items can we talk about? Okay, Obama right decision reached this week, says President. Oh yeah, apparently President Obama's aunt, who was who a lot of people say is probably not even a legal resident of this country, is taking a lot of guff from. Well, let's see, from a Supreme Court judge, and a U.S. immigration judge, and well, I mean that's to be expected. I guess when you are president, you do have certain perks. And I don't think that's so bad. I mean, it's hard enough to get to be president, let alone. Okay, I guess we have 5 minutes left. That's wonderful. I've covered almost the whole hour. That's great, and with the help from my old colleague Joe O'Neill here. But I got to say that I don't have anything against presidential perks. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, I think it's great. It makes history more interesting. Someday, historians look back on the early 21st century as a whole new era of presidential perks. Presidents can now go on the talk show circuit. They can have illegal immigrant relatives stay in the country, and live in nice surroundings. I think that's awesome. That's my opinion. That's one guy's opinion. Again, we only have 5 minutes left. If anyone wants to call in and have a quick rebuttal on that, or just an agreement, that's fine. But I just think I don't have anything. I don't have any problem with the president having taking his family for vacations. And I mean, in the late 20th century, we learned about the president's pets. We learned about President Clinton's cat. We learned about and his dog Buddy, his cat Socks. I think that's great. I mean, let's face it. The president is just another human being with a very, very important job, and a person with an important job has perks. I mean, whether it's being president or whether it's being CEO of some major corporation. And the only difference is that if the president everybody knows about because he's the president. He's basically the ruler of the free world. So maybe next time when, next week when I come in to do the show, we can weigh in on that topic. I'm sure we'll have plenty of other stuff to talk about as well. Let's see. I have 3 minutes left. I've just informed. Well, okay. I just want to, wish everybody a happy, have a good night. Go to the Marshfield Fair. By the time I come in next week, it'll start August 23rd, which is next Monday. So next week is the 25th when I come in. Maybe somebody will call in with some nice experiences they had at the fair. I love to hear, nice stories, personal anecdotes, whatnot. And I'm definitely looking forward to our next show. Hopefully I get some more callers. If I don't, I'm sure I can still fill up the hour. I did it pretty well today. Listen to please know if you tune in tomorrow morning, every Thursday morning, 8:25, you can hear a very clever poem that I write and record on Tuesdays. Tomorrow is no exception. It should be a pretty clever poem if you're driving in your car to work at 8:25, if you're at your house exercising, whatever, which is something I can relate to. Please feel free to listen. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear some feedback about my poetry. I haven't gotten it at the radio station. I've been doing it for 2.5 years. But, I enjoy it. I enjoy weighing in. I enjoy being part of the media. It's a nice feeling. Like I was telling my friend Joe there, my former colleague, I am going to be part of the sports media. I may be referencing football games this fall. Maybe you'll see me in a striped shirt and cap. Maybe see me in a game shooting some shots, for this new company I'm starting work for pretty soon. Whatever. So, I want you guys to just enjoy life. It's what you make it. Enjoy the weather. It's beautiful right now. Don't complain when it's good. Just complain when it's bad. And we have 1 minute left. It's getting to be close to dinner time for a lot of people. People, sitting down to have chow right now. Have something good. Make sure, if it's meatless, all the better, I say. That's my conviction. It has been for quite a while, more than half my life. I guess that's pretty much it. I guess for the next 30 or so seconds, we're going to run the theme of my show. I picked it myself yesterday afternoon. I like it. Maybe just the theme itself will inspire you to call next week. So that's a wrap. And it was nice talking to you. This is Harrison Young signing off for Topic Time. See you next time. Have a great week. Didn't run the music, huh?
Oh, well, we will next time.
All right. Okay. How did that look? How did I do?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Filled up the whole hour.
Yeah, I did.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.